And welcome back to Hannity Live from Vegas on the Strip, the MGM Grand. And we are here ahead of tomorrow's third and final presidential debate. Now, it's all happening in less than 24 hours. And, of course, you can watch it right here on the Fox News channel. But first, here's part two of my interview with former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. So, do you think the Project Veritas tapes, where we've got people literally inciting violence connected to the DNC, connected to Hillary's campaign, and institutionalizing voter fraud at a level we'd never hear anybody ever admit in the past? And do you think that, coupled with the WikiLeaks revelations, what impact is this going to have on the race, which is 3 weeks from today? I think voters go to the polls.
I think all of it wears down on Clinton. I think all of it makes her even less desirable, even more frightening. I mean, if you have people doing this now, can you imagine if she has the power of the presidency? The kind of things she will do, how dangerous she will be to our civil liberties, and how willing she will be to go after people in ways that are very, very, I think, dangerous to the whole survival of the rule of law in this country. So in that sense, I think all of these pieces come together in a way that are just a further reminder of how bad she is, how bad her immediate staff is. I mean, the whole thing that came out this morning where they're saying, well, we really can't support Israel too much because that'll make our left-wing allies really unhappy. These kind of things come up over and over again, and the more you pull back the mask, the more you realize that the secret Clinton and the secret Clinton team is a really pretty, I think, very frightening system of very radical thoughts, very willing to break the law.
When you think of all of the time that the media spent on allegations against Donald Trump, most of which have now been fully debunked, although it took a week, and all the time, while that was happening, simultaneously, all these WikiLeaks are being dropped, the media paid zero attention to it. Now, we do have the latest revelations today, and I'll put that up on the screen with a long list of other things that I think would probably prevent any other person in the country from ever becoming president. The new revelations are simple. Clinton wanted Obamacare to unravel, I assume because she wants a single payer. Podesta called Senator Bernie Sanders a doofus. The campaign found a gender pay gap at the Clinton Foundation. Podesta listed potential VP candidates by racial and gender food groups. And aides thought Obama's remarks about the private server didn't make sense. Now, I'm going to continue to roll all of the earlier revelations that most people don't seem to know, but you can even take it back further. When Debbie Wasserman Schultz was fired, there was racism and sexism and misogyny and anti-Semitism on full display by the Democrats. In other words, the very things they always accuse Republicans of.
Look, when you just learned the one thing that you mentioned in passing, the highest paid people in the Clinton Foundation were 3 times as likely to be men rather than women. Just start with that single fact. And yet, where is the elite media? Where is the anger? Where is the outrage that the organization she and her husband controlled paid men dramatically more than it paid women? You know, doesn't it? And this goes back to the degree 96% of the money given by reporters to campaigns this year, 96% went to Hillary Clinton. That is a 24-to-1 ratio, and it tells you why you're dealing with this constant barrage of propaganda masquerading as news. But it's not news. It is propaganda designed to undermine Donald Trump, and frankly, his job tomorrow night is to overcome that.
You think about it's NBC. Literally, they're fed questions when Hillary's going to be interviewed. It's CNN operatives feeding questions to the Clinton campaign in advance of a town hall. It's the AP that have friendlies that they go to. It's the Atlantic. It's John Harwood at CNBC. It's the LA Times, the New York Times. It's Salon. It's the San Francisco Chronicle. It's, the Boston Globe. Cheryl Atkinson, who used to work at CBS, had an interesting piece that she put out. She calls it Newsgate 2016. I'll read you a small piece of it. She says, independent minds should be concerned about the latest revelations in the news media's unseemly relationships with government and political actors. While there are many responsible journalists working today, inside documents and leaks have exposed serious lapses constituting the most far-reaching scandal our industry has known. It's our very own Newsgate. I think that's
I think that's true.
That captures pretty well how deep this runs here.
This is And the point Cheryl's making is this is the largest example of total one-sided bias in the history of the American media, and that's why I said earlier today on your radio show they should seriously consider dropping the term Columbia School of Journalism and replacing it with Columbia School of Propaganda. Just to be honest, we're not talking about news media, we're talking about propaganda. CNN is a propaganda machine. MSNBC is a propaganda machine. What the networks did the night that the Trump tape came out, when they put in 23 minutes on an 11-year-old tape, and the three of them combined put in 57 seconds covering WikiLeaks, that's pure propaganda. It's worthy of Pravda or Izvestia or the old Soviet-style
of the
papers.
silencing? What do you think about John Kerry perhaps influencing, the silencing of Julian Assange?
Well, I think first of all, it's going to make a really interesting question, because everybody's assumed that this was the Russians and it's Putin and et cetera. If Assange matters that much sitting in the Ecuadorian embassy, then that's because it's Assange. But what you have, and you see this in all the WikiLeaks, you have the Obama administration, including Kerry, including the State Department bureaucrats, including in particular Patrick Kennedy, who ought to be fired today. You have an entire conspiracy to prop up and protect Hillary Clinton, to try to get her to the finish line, no matter how many allegations there are. And you also had, of course, the vice president suggesting that we might launch a cyber attack on Russia in response to a political event. I mean, this stuff is dangerous talk and can get us into a really big problem. But these people in the White House, I mean, Obama and Kerry and Biden are so utterly incompetent about this stuff that they could stumble into a real war if they're not careful, because they don't realize how dangerous this is.
Last question. In 3 weeks from today, the people in this country are going to go to the polls. You had to give your best guess. Who's going to win this election? Do you trust the polls out there now?
I think the polls are as accurate here as they were in Great Britain, and I think that the conservative populist movement has been winning in Austria, in Italy, in Iceland. I think it won decisively in Britain despite every poll. And I have a hunch that Donald Trump is going to end up as the next president, which will come as an enormous heart attack-giving shock to the left.
Fox News projects Donald Trump, the 45th president. Yeah.
I have to tell your audience.
Go ahead.
I'm at the Reagan Library. 45 minutes from where your radio career began at Santa Barbara.
That's correct. And that was, by the way,
a story none of your audience knows.
30 years ago. 30 years ago. And you're going to be at the Nixon Library tomorrow night if people want to go out and see you. Mr. Speaker, thanks for being with us. Congrats on the success of the new book.